Welcome back to the Church Resource, where we talk about all the best resources for churches, leaders, and lay people. I'm here with Dr. Chris Respass.
What's up, baby?
What's going on, man?
Nothing, man. How you been?
I'm fantastic. It's good to see
you
your
look
face
fantastic.
again. Well,
I'm sorry you got to see my face,
I think,
but hey, you know.
You know what? It is good to be. People don't know this because they've been hearing it because we've been batch recording these jokers.
Yeah.
You're back after your sabbatical.
Yeah, that's
your annual sabbatical.
Yeah, that's it. Other people call it vacation, but I guess I've been gone so long this time.
Yeah, when you take a month, I think that's what it counts as.
That's it.
So
yeah.
You have a good time? Feel recharged?
We did, man.
Refreshed?
We slept a lot, and
you dog.
some of it was intentional, much of it was not. Like, let me sit here for a sec. Gone. Yeah, it was good, man. Missed it.
I don't believe that.
I
but
did.
I do appreciate you saying that.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I thought about you often.
But he never texted.
Not one time.
Like, I thought about you, but I didn't want to talk to you.
The thought was
I'm
good
on
enough.
vacation.
That's it.
Oh, bro. Well, reality hurts.
Boy, stop.
So, with your time off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about that, but in the way you use it as a pastor.
Okay.
Because I struggle, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I struggle to disengage.
Okay.
So I talked with another friend of ours, Jeff Williams. I got to see him on Friday.
Okay.
Right, so we all got invited to go to a baseball game, and he was there, and he's in week 10 of a 12-week sabbatical.
Okay.
So he's got another couple of weeks left.
Yeah.
And they do it at his church about every 7 years. They give him a full 3 months.
Right.
And we chatted for just a little bit about it. I'm wondering how you use it. I've got a buddy up in Canada who always takes the entire summer. That's built into his thing. So he gets 90 days every year.
Wow.
I don't understand how the guy stays employed, but it's Canadians.
Hey.
So he gets there and we're like, oh, we're sorry you didn't have an extra day. So he uses it as a time to recharge and study. Some pastors I've talked to use it as a time to just recharge. Others use it as a time to prep. When you get this, you stack your vacation time, so you take about a month. What does that look like for you as far as like what your day-to-day looks like? Does it take you a little bit to wind down to be able to disengage? And then as you're ramping back up, are you using it for study time, or do you use it only for the purpose of, I won't say leisure because that's not necessarily it, but like recharging? Right.
So I do want to distinguish vacation and sabbaticals, right? Now, there may be some context where for some folks it's overlapping. For me, it is my vacation time, just like you've described it. So it's not, it's extensive compared to, what people often take, but it's not a sabbatical in the sense where, like in the 7-year cycle, you take, 90 days to get away, but often, it's a little project that you're trying to accomplish, during that 90-day period. And often the churches, the leadership team is looking for you to come back with something other than I just took 90 days off, right?
Yeah.
And so it varies. But in my case, it was a vacation. And let me just tell you how I got there. So first of all, having planted the church, I was very reluctant to leave. And so, to go away, to trust the ministry with other folks. And so,
bro, that is so tough. Even as the person who didn't plant the church, as we've kind of approached FBC Lake Dallas as a replant, especially post-COVID.
Right.
Dude, taking a week off is sometimes something where I'm like, man, I don't know if I can do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. And eventually, I had some older pastors, tell me like, listen, brother, you're going to burn out, right? And this was along the time when it was becoming clear that pastors were burning out. So make a long story short, I did start to take a week. But what I found was in that week, it was taking me, I was using a couple of those days to finish up projects, that I had going on. And then I was using a couple of those days at the end to ramp up.
Yeah.
And
so you really had a day off.
Yeah, exactly.
In that week.
You know, and psychologically, because I find, at the time I was younger, So the physical piece wasn't so much the issue as much as it was the mental piece and the emotional piece. And so over time, man, as the my leadership kind of solidified and the church grew and we got other help, then my vacation time increased as well.
Gotcha.
And I found that that same principle in week one applied very much, in if I had a 2-week vacation or a 3-week vacation or now a month. Well, at least I take that month. I still got a couple of weeks left that I use throughout the year. But I end up using it in large part to rest and recover, to spend time with my family, to sleep, to take it easy. But I don't think you can ever, I never really get 100% away from what's happening at the church, because I'm either thinking about what I'm going to teach when I get back, what I'm going to preach about, some, issues that in the throes of everything that's going on didn't really have the space to exhale and really think about it. And so, still trying to resolve some of those issues.
Do you go to your church on Sunday mornings?
I do not.
Okay. Do you go to other churches on Sunday mornings?
Yes and no.
Okay, yeah. Right. So like this is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because like some pastors I've talked to, if they take extended vacations or they take, a 3-month sabbatical or something like that, they're intentionally not going to their church.
Right.
Some of them go to no church at all. Others use it as an opportunity to go kind of visit some other churches, kind of see what else is out there, to be taught and refreshed. One of the things that I really enjoy about Sunday mornings when I have a vacation day on a Sunday morning is that those are the few times a year where Kirsten and I actually get to worship together. Yeah. Because we both play on our worship team at church, and then I'm preaching. So like once services start on Sunday morning, I only step off the stage in our current format to do our response time, our invitation time.
Okay.
But once service goes until that moment, like I'm up there the entire time, and then I'm back on at the end. So really, I mean, in a certain sense, like I never step off the stage once that happens. Now we're trying to do some things and train some people up so that that's not the case. But even still, if I stop playing in the band and I'm still just preaching, like we're going to pass each other on the way back up and down. So we've enjoyed it the couple of times a year we get to do it, because it is an opportunity to worship together. Now I know some people like that. Some people are just like, nah, I'm gonna sleep in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said sometimes sometimes.
For me it's blended. So like this summer, a couple Sundays we visited friends who were pastors, so we went to their churches.
I saw some of those Facebook posts.
Yeah,
man. People get excited when the doctor comes to visit.
Oh man, listen,
they do. There's no two ways about it.
I was glad to be there, know, and because that's the other thing. I mean, we're so busy with the responsibilities that we have at our church, like you are here, and so we, as much as we would like to support other people, it's rarely a time to do it on a Sunday for sure. And so we did that. And there are times when we will visit other churches to worship, but to also benchmark, to kind of see some things, to see how we might do some things better, to see if they're incorporating things in their worship or in their greeter team, or whatever that we might consider. And then other times, if I'm honest, I'm still may watch our service online, right? I call it going to Mount Mattress, right? I'm staying at the house.
Climb with a Mount Mattress.
That's it. That's it, Doc.
God met me on the cold side of the pillow today.
That's it, Doc. I'm at Mount Mattress.
That's what I'm talking
turn
about.
on the live stream or whatever.
That's awesome.
Keep checking in. But there are Sundays, man, where we just sleep in, like that last one. We were like, bro, we're just going to sleep in, because I never get to sleep in on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Not that that's particularly unique or special for anybody, but it's a blend. And I used, there were times when I used to feel like a heathen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's gonna be disappointed with me, and forgive me, Lord. And then I'll worship or sleep in and catch a later service somewhere. But yeah.
Yeah. I do think that's one of the things that there's a lot of like potential guilt associated with when we don't go to church,
Yeah.
especially since we often from the pulpit remind people how important fellowship is, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
You know, it does, there can be this feeling of like, of a sort of like a hypocritical spirit that we've got there. But at the same time,
Right.
when it is time that is designated to spend off, right? Going to visit other churches, fellowshipping with other pastors, those kinds of things are an important thing. But it's also important to consult the Holy Spirit and realize that, you know, there are some times when, you know, you do need to rest.
Yeah.
Not that you're forsaking the fellowship of others,
Right.
but you are using, you know, this time as a Sabbath or a sabbatical, which is where that comes from, to really just spend some time resting in the Lord to recharge, because
Right.
you know that if you're doing your job properly, as soon as you get back in, you're going to get wrung out.
Oh, without a doubt.
And, you know, one of my favorite things that I've heard from any pastor, anybody, is he said, you know, at the end of my life, I want to be exhausted for the sake of the gospel. And I think that's the way that as pastors we're supposed to be living our lives. But also that, you know, if we want to prolong that period of time that we have in our lives where we're able to really effectively do ministry with a high level of competency and energy and all of those things, that it's important for us to spend a little time and say, hey, you know what, I gotta get this rest, so that I'm ready to do the gig.
And that's important, you know. The Lord built in that day of rest for a reason, you know. It's important. We need it. And sometimes I think we're entirely too hard on ourselves. And, you know, reminds me when, you know, some of the decisions I had to make concerning my children and their extracurricular activities vis-a-vis the responsibilities that I had at the church.
Yeah.
And it was clear to me that everybody else in the congregation was going to make the sacrifice for their child, right? They weren't going to come to Bible study. They weren't going to do these other things for their children. But yet I was going to let my kids go through life and miss all of that while I was at this meeting. Nah, I'd rather move the meeting and go do the stuff. And it's the same thing with rest. Everybody else is going to go on a cruise. Everybody else is going to, you know, go to Disneyland or Disney World or King's Dominion or wherever it is. And yet, and they're going to go on a Sunday.
Right.
Right. And I'm not going to rest on this Sunday because I'm a somehow or another be a hypocrite. No, I don't think so. You gotta. The Lord knows.
Right.
And there are ways to worship Him in the gathering of your family.
Yeah.
You know.
And I do think, you know, it's important, one, to make a distinction here, is that, you know, you're not saying do something because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
But at the same time, there are times that are designed for us as a rule. We should not forsake the fellowship of believers.
Correct. I mean, that's the Bible.
But there are occasions where, particularly when it comes to a time of rest in order to recharge, a time of rest in order to prepare yourself for the upcoming season or whatever, where it is a healthy thing to withdraw and get that rest, so that when you're ready to re-engage in the fellowship of believers or the Holy Spirit that leads you, then that's it. It's the same. I look at it the same as sometimes like fasting, right? Or, you know, when Paul talks about that there is, you know, we belong to our wives belong to us, and that we should not withhold ourselves from each other unless there's a period of time in which we say, hey, this is going to happen. You know, we're going to abstain for, you know, a week, 6 weeks, whatever that period of time looks like, and then we come back together. That it's that same type of thing where, you know, it lasts for this long. You know, I'm taking this month, I'm taking, you know, a little bit of time, and then it's not that we're neglecting the fellowship of believers. It's that we're going and seeking that solitude. We're seeking that rest and that restoration so that we are more useful to the body whenever we come back off of it. It's a lot different than making sure that you are, you know, in church, out of church, or then when the alarm goes off at 8:30, that you're like, nah, I'm going to miss church today. Like, that is forsaking the fellowship of believers, saying, hey, listen, we may or may not go to church this Sunday because this is our period of rest is a different thing. And so like drawing that distinction, I think is an important deal.
And the reason I gave the example that I did for other people was that as pastors, if somebody missed a Sunday because they were on vacation, we would not villainize them in our mind. We wouldn't think that they were a bad Christian. We wouldn't think that somehow or another they neglected, the fellowship of believers. But if we do, right, there's this subtle pressure that we think that somehow or another.
Yeah, felt or actual.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all I'm saying, right?
Yeah, and it's so, one of the interesting things, and this will be a sidebar conversation, one of the interesting things about putting ourselves out here on a platform like this, talking about these kinds of things, is that we're going to get the people who are nitpicky about every little thing that we say. And for those who don't know, this goes back to a looming analogy.
Okay.
Right? Like for wool.
Okay.
That whenever you're getting ready to loom wool, you got to look, and there are little things that get caught up in the wool, in the sheep's fur, that you have to pick.
Yeah.
Right? And so when we talk about somebody being nitpicky, like that's literally what they're doing, is they're picking the little nits that are like attached to weeds or whatever that get into a sheep's wool. They go do this. So it is, it's often that happens online, and it's one of those realities, right?
Yeah.
So we got to cover all bases and all those kinds of things. And so it is interesting for us to be able to have these conversations as candidly as we do, knowing that like that's out there, right?
And well,
and
listen,
it's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And somebody's gonna have an issue with it, and that's fine. At least you're thinking about it.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
Because at least you're grappling with it, and that's the difficult piece, right? Like you can, use your best efforts, come up with what works, and go with it. And if God gives you peace, amen.
Fantastic. Right? Yeah. As long as as long as you're lining up with biblical stuff, and there is nothing about like those things that don't. So one thing I would encourage any of our pastors, leaders, lay people that are listening to this podcast is build in some of those times.
Indeed.
Right? Like we are called to give a lot.
Yes.
And one of the things we see throughout Jesus' ministry is that he takes time to go seek solitude. He takes time to go rest.
That's right.
Him and the disciples often escape the crowds to go and find time to rest because they're expending so much energy outpouring into everybody else. And I've always hated the thing of like, oh, you can't give from an empty cup, because the truth of the matter is that there are a lot of times when that's exactly what we're trying to do. Right?
It.
And there isn't a... if somebody needs something and we are there as a pastor, as a shepherd, as a leader, then it's our responsibility to go. And I think that applies in the sense of like we have to be going back and honestly giving, or we have to be getting from Christ. We have to be going and asking him for the ability to love others, for wisdom, for grace, for mercy, for all of those things so that we can give them out. But if it comes to like when you're talking about, oh, I got to have rest because, you can't give from an empty cup. Yes, you can. When it comes to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't prioritize your person over your calling in some of these instances. That's my blanket statement as the general rule. However, we do have to build in time where, hey, you know what? Somebody else is going to cover my Sunday school class today because, we're going on vacation, or I got to have a little bit of rest. Whatever that looks like, you got to have that time built in. For a number of reasons, not just to rest and recharge, but also if we are never giving up our pulpits, if we're never giving up those teaching slots in our classrooms, then we're showing people that leadership in our church is a closed loop and that you will never get in and be a part of it because we're holding on to it so tightly. And it gives us an opportunity to build up leaders. Even if you're going to be there on that Sunday, have that. If rest for you looks like, hey, you know what? This is a Sunday where I'm not going to play, or this is a Sunday where I'm not going to preach or whatever, man, that's a healthy thing too. Show up, do the deal. So
that's it.
Yeah.
And we have to guard against pride kind of creeping in and the belief that nobody else can do it, but me.
I hate that comment.
Man, it's the truth, bro. Yeah. Like, and church as a, my personality type, I would lead that way. Not, being a church planner or a church revitalizer. or just really having ownership, if we're not careful, man, to your point, we'll be sending the wrong message. But we got to make sure that message be careful about the messaging that we're sending to ourselves, right? That it's a team sport, right? Yeah. That there's a body of Christ, and we all have different gifts, talents, abilities, skill set, insight, whatever. We're diverse. But that does not mean no one else can do it, right? And so we have to give ourselves permission, right, to trust that the Spirit of God is working through somebody else in addition to us.
Yeah. And even if you look at let's go to the Old Testament priesthood, right? Those people didn't hold those positions forever,
right?
Because of the amount of pressure that is on there, right? So just one of those things to remember, because I think there's a large contingency of pastors who are like you when you were younger, like me at my age, where we're like, you know what, I'm not going to get burnt out. I'm going to be the exception to the rule. And if we don't build these types of things in early in our ministry, then when inevitably those things do come, we're not going to have the mechanism that allows us to recharge. Instead, all of that responsibility, and that's one of the things that I have discovered about myself over the last few years, is that I have disguised my pride under the guise of responsibility. That it's, no, I don't think I'm the only one that can do it, but God made me responsible for these things. Therefore, I have to do it. When the reality is it's me just, when I really peel back the curtain, it's because I'm not trusting God enough that there are people who are adequately gifted in our congregation to do the things that need to happen. And so yeah, that's something to evaluate, and this really shines a light on that. But your people will thank you, your family will thank you, you will thank you if something like a sabbatical or a prolonged vacation, if those are things that are built in. And if your church is offering you vacation, don't make the same mistake that I did, where it's saying, hey, we've got a few weeks for you, and realizing that, you know what, unlike my job in the secular world, I don't get vacation time that stacks up. Those vacation days don't roll over year to year, and all that stuff that didn't get used is not going to just come out magically on a paycheck, because there's no earned PTO. So take the time that your church has given you, because they gave it to you for a reason. They want to see you be healthy. Your family needs you to be healthy. Your congregation needs to be healthy. And ultimately, the healthier you are, the more effective you are in ministry, man. These are healthy conversations, but they're difficult conversations to have.
They are.
Especially when, like I said, when we oftentimes disguise pride with responsibility.
And
it's an easy thing to do, man. So I appreciate you for giving us a little insight into it, talking to us about how and why it happens. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah,
right?
Glad to be back.
Yeah, because now you'll start responding to my text messages, and the rest of y'all, thank you so much for watching, for listening, for subscribing to the Church Resource on YouTube and our other platforms. If you have questions or a resource that you want us to check out, you can shoot us an email at thechurchresource@gmail.com. That's thechurchresource@gmail.com. And until next week, y'all have a good Get Give, and we'll see you.
Holla.